You know those moments when life just feels heavy, when you wake up every morning and the first thing you feel isn't excitement, but exhaustion? When you start questioning everything, your choices, your purpose, your direction, it's like you're stuck on autopilot, doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, living the same patterns, and deep down you know something has to change. That's when your soul starts whispering to you, telling you enough, stop, reset. And I'm telling you right now, there is nothing wrong with you for feeling this way. It doesn't mean you've failed. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. We all hit those seasons where our soul needs a reset, where the life we've been living no longer matches the person we're becoming. But here's the thing, nobody's coming to hit that reset button for you. Nobody's going to save you from your own patterns. You have to decide. You have to choose to stop, breathe, and take control of your life again. And let me be brutally honest here, the reset you need isn't about changing everything overnight. It's not about quitting your job, moving to a different city, or reinventing yourself in some dramatic way. It's about taking your power back one small choice at a time. It's about deciding right now that you are done living on autopilot. You're done giving your energy to things that drain you, people who break you, and habits that keep you stuck. The reset starts with a single moment of awareness. The moment you realize that you don't have to keep living the way you've been living. You don't have to keep accepting less than you deserve. You don't have to keep hiding your pain or pretending you're okay when you're not. You get to stop right now and ask yourself, what do I need to feel alive again? What do I need to feel at peace again? And then you get to choose one thing, just one, and do it. Because here's the truth. You don't need more motivation, you need momentum. Motivation is temporary, but momentum changes everything. That's why you start small. You start by drinking the water, by walking for 10 minutes, by turning off your phone and actually sitting in silence, by forgiving yourself for the mistakes you've made instead of beating yourself up for them, by saying no when your whole life you've been conditioned to say less. Those little choices create a ripple, and that ripple becomes a wave, and before you know it, you've reset your entire life by simply choosing yourself. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Anytime you hit reset, your brain will try to pull you back into your old patterns because they feel safe even when they're destroying you. But that's the test. That's the moment you have to stand up for yourself, for your future, and for the life you actually want. It's about choosing courage over comfort, choosing growth over familiarity, choosing you over and over again, even when it's hard. You don't need anyone's permission to reset your soul. You don't need anyone's approval to start over. You don't even need to know exactly where you're going. You just need to start one step, one choice, one moment at a time. Because the reset isn't about escaping your life. It's about creating a life you no longer want to escape from. The fact is, you know that feeling when you wake up in the morning and something just feels off? You're going through the motions, checking the boxes, showing up where you're supposed to be, doing what's expected of you, but deep down there's this voice whispering, this isn't it. This isn't who I'm meant to be. That's not laziness. That's not you being ungrateful. That's your soul talking. That's your inner compass trying to wake you up and remind you that you're out of alignment. And here's the thing most people don't realize, you cannot change anything about your life until you're willing to face the truth about where you are right now. Awareness is everything. It's the foundation of every transformation. You can't fix a problem you refuse to admit exists. You can't heal what you won't confront. But here's what happens to so many of us. We get caught up in the noise of life. We bury ourselves in work, in distractions, in other people's expectations, just so we don't have to deal with that uncomfortable truth that something's missing. And yet, the longer you ignore it, the louder it gets. It shows up in your anxiety. It shows up in your relationships. It shows up in that sense of frustration, like you're living on autopilot, disconnected from your purpose and from yourself. Let me tell you something important. There will never be a perfect time to reset your soul. There's no magic date on the calendar where everything suddenly clicks into place. The reset begins the moment you decide to stop lying to yourself and finally get honest about what isn't working. That's the hard part, right? Because honesty can be brutal. It forces you to face the choices you've made, the habits you've built, and the people you've allowed into your space. But on the other side of that honesty is freedom. You can't create change from denial. You create change by choosing awareness. And awareness is not about judgment, it's about observation. It's about taking a step back and saying, okay, what's really happening here? What patterns am I repeating? What am I tolerating that I shouldn't be? Where am I giving away my power? That's when the reset begins, when you stop pointing fingers at everyone else and start owning your choices, your energy, and your future. I get it, though, that moment of self-awareness is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront the gap between the life you're living and the life you actually want. And that gap can feel massive. You look at where you are versus where you want to be, and it feels overwhelming, so your brain tells you to stay where it's safe, where it's familiar. But here's the truth: that safe zone you're clinging to, that's what's keeping you stuck. The longer you stay blind to what's really going on, the longer you postpone the life you're meant to live. When you finally allow yourself to see things clearly, you start making different choices. You start questioning why you keep saying yes to things that drain you. You notice the habits that keep you exhausted. You realize which relationships feel heavy instead of empowering. That awareness doesn't instantly change everything, but it shifts the way you move through the world. Suddenly, you're not operating on autopilot anymore. You're intentional. And intention is the first spark that leads to transformation. Your soul is always talking to you. That restless energy you feel, that deep dissatisfaction you can't explain, that's not random. That's a signal. It's a call to action. And if you keep ignoring it, you'll wake up one day and realize you've spent years living a version of your life that was never really yours. But if you choose awareness, if you decide to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it feels, you open the door to a reset that can completely change everything. The first step isn't doing anything drastic. The first step is simply waking up to your own life. It's saying, something isn't right here and I deserve better. That decision alone is powerful, because the moment you choose awareness, you take your power back. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. And when you reach that level of clarity, everything else, the habits, the boundaries, the growth, becomes so much easier, because now you're finally awake to what you want, and even more importantly, what you will no longer accept. Here's the thing most people don't realize: your life doesn't transform in one big dramatic moment. It changes in tiny, almost invisible steps that you take consistently, even when you don't feel like it. You're not going to wake up tomorrow magically confident, healed, and motivated. That's not how this works. The reset your soul needs isn't about throwing everything away and starting from scratch. It's about making small, intentional shifts that move you closer to the life you actually want. Because here's the truth: big change is nothing more than a series of small choices repeated over and over until they become your new normal. But here's where most people get it wrong. They overcomplicate the process. They think, if I want a better life, I need to overhaul everything right now. And then they burn out before they even get started. I'm telling you, stop trying to move the entire mountain in one day. Start by moving a single rock. If your soul feels drained, if you feel stuck or disconnected, the way forward isn't some massive overnight transformation. It's picking one small habit, one small decision, and committing to it today. You want more energy? Start by drinking water first thing in the morning. You want clarity? Take 10 minutes to sit in silence and breathe before scrolling through your phone. You want to feel more in control of your life? Spend 5 minutes writing down your priorities for the day instead of letting the chaos take over. These small shifts seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, they rewire the way you show up for yourself. And that's when things start to change, not because you forced a massive transformation, but because you built tiny, sustainable habits that align with the person you want to become. Here's what nobody tells you about change: your brain is wired to resist it. It craves safety. It loves the familiar, even if the familiar is making you miserable. That's why taking massive, overwhelming steps rarely works. You're pushing yourself so far out of your comfort zone that your brain fights you every step of the way. But when you focus on small, manageable changes, you bypass that resistance. Your brain doesn't panic when you commit to one glass of water. It doesn't fight back when you decide to get up 10 minutes earlier. These tiny wins build momentum, and momentum builds confidence. And here's the magic of momentum. Once you start stacking these small wins, your identity begins to shift. You stop saying, I want to be the kind of person who takes care of myself, and you start being that person, because your actions are proof. And when your identity shifts, your behavior naturally follows. You're no longer trying to force yourself to do the right things. You do them because they're part of who you are. That's when the reset becomes effortless. But you have to stop waiting for motivation. Motivation isn't coming to save you. Waiting to feel ready is the biggest trap you can fall into. You don't reset your soul by waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect energy. You reset by acting first and letting your feelings catch up later. You do the thing before you feel like doing it, and that's how you retrain your brain to trust yourself again. The key is consistency, not intensity. 5 minutes of journaling every morning does more for your mental clarity than 1 hour of journaling once a month. Moving your body for 10 minutes daily and builds more strength and confidence than going to the gym once, crushing yourself and then never going back. Transformation happens when you trade the fantasy of instant results for the discipline of small daily actions. And those small actions, they compound, they create momentum, they turn chaos into clarity. Every tiny choice you make sends a signal to your brain about who you are becoming. When you hit snooze 5 times, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who avoids life. But when you get up, drink your water, take a deep breath, and move forward with intention, you're building the identity of someone who takes control. You're teaching yourself that you can trust you. And when you trust yourself, everything changes. This is how you reset, not by flipping your entire life upside down, but by taking one small step and sticking to it no matter how insignificant it seems. That's how you start to rebuild your confidence. That's how you create a life that actually feels aligned with who you are. And it's how you remind yourself that you are capable of so much more than you've been giving yourself credit for. Let me tell you something that most people overlook. Rebuilding your confidence, your energy, and your entire life doesn't start with fixing everything around you. It starts with rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself. If you feel stuck, disconnected, or lost right now, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've stopped trusting yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, you second guess every decision, you question every move, and you get stuck in this exhausting cycle of overthinking and self-doubt. That's where most people live. But here's the truth. You don't stay there by accident. You stay there because you've trained your brain to believe you can't handle more. And here's the reality. Your brain believes whatever you repeatedly tell it. If you constantly break promises to yourself, if you say, I'll start tomorrow, and then you don't, if you keep tolerating situations that drain your energy, your brain starts collecting evidence that you can't be trusted. It logs every missed workout, every skipped opportunity, every moment you said you'd change but didn't, and eventually it creates a story. I'm not capable. I'm not strong enough. I can't do this. That story becomes the lens through which you see your entire life. And until you change that story, you will keep repeating the same patterns. So, how do you reset your soul when that's where you are? You rebuild trust, not by talking yourself into it, not by dreaming about it, but by showing up for yourself in the smallest, most consistent ways possible. When you say you're going to get up at 7 a.m. and you actually do it, your brain takes note. When you decide you're going to drink 2 glasses of water today and you follow through, your brain collects that win. These small actions may seem insignificant, but they're not. They're proof. And your brain needs proof before it starts to believe you again. This is exactly why people feel stuck for years, not because they're lazy or incapable, but because they've spent so much time abandoning themselves that they don't trust their own word anymore. If you want to reset, you have to start creating evidence that you are reliable, capable, and strong, and that evidence comes from action, not thoughts, not intentions. Action. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. In fact, you shouldn't. That's where most people fail. They overwhelm themselves with unrealistic expectations and then shame themselves when they can't keep up. Stop doing that. You don't need a complete overhaul. You need a small, consistent reset that teaches your brain, I can count on myself again. That's where the magic starts. And let me be real with you. This is not about perfection. You're not going to get it right every time. You're going to mess up. You're going to miss days. But rebuilding trust isn't about never failing. It's about showing up for yourself more often than you don't. It's about making promises to yourself that are so small you can't fail, and then stacking those wins until your confidence grows. Because here's the thing, confidence isn't built by achieving big goals. It's built by keeping the smallest promises to yourself over and over until your brain starts to believe, I do what I say I'm going to do. That's the reset your soul has been craving. Not another motivational high, not another perfectly curated plan, but a daily practice of proving to yourself that you're capable, resilient, and worthy of the life you want. Once you start stacking those small wins, everything shifts. You stop second guessing yourself. You stop looking for validation from everyone else. You stop tolerating things that drain your energy because your actions are constantly reinforcing a new identity. I take care of me. I trust me. I've got me. And when you reach that point, the noise around you quiets down. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop surviving and start living. This isn't about controlling everything in your life. It's about controlling what you can, your choices, your actions, your habits. That's where your power lies. You don't need to figure out the next 5 years. You just need to figure out the next 5 minutes. Make one decision today that proves to you that you've got your own back. Then do it again tomorrow and again the next day. That's how you rebuild trust. That's how you create momentum. And that's how you reset your soul in the deepest, most lasting way possible. Let me be brutally honest with you. Your environment shapes you more than your intentions ever will. You can have the best plans, the clearest goals, the strongest desire to change, but if you're constantly surrounded by chaos, negativity, and people who drain your energy, you will keep slipping back into the same patterns you're trying to escape. It's not because you're weak. It's because your environment is programming your brain every single day, whether you realize it or not. Think about it. You wake up in the morning, and before you even get out of bed, you grab your phone. The first thing you see is someone else's perfect life on social media, a flood of news headlines designed to trigger anxiety, and a list of notifications that already make you feel behind. Before your feet even hit the floor, your nervous system is in survival mode. That's not a personal flaw, that's environmental conditioning. And if you don't change what you're allowing into your space, your brain is going to keep reacting the same way. Stressed, scattered, and overwhelmed. This is why resetting your soul isn't just about changing what's inside you. It's about changing what surrounds you. You need to detox your environment, and I don't mean just cleaning up your physical space, although that matters too. I'm talking about everything. Your digital environment, your relationships, your habits, the energy you allow into your life. Because here's the truth, what you consume, you become. The conversations you have, the media you absorb, the people you spend time with, they're either feeding your growth or feeding your doubt. There's no neutral ground. If you're constantly around people who complain, who criticize, who always expect the worst, you are absorbing that energy whether you want to or not. Your brain is wired to mirror the people closest to you. It's called social conditioning. That means if you want to reset your life, you have to protect your energy like it's oxygen. Because it is. You can't heal in an environment that keeps hurting you. You can't rise when you're surrounded by people committed to staying stuck. I'm not saying you need to cut everyone off or move to a deserted island. What I'm saying is you have to get intentional. Start by asking yourself one simple question. Does this person, this content, this habit make me feel lighter or heavier? That's it. Your body already knows the answer before your brain tries to rationalize it. If something consistently makes you feel drained, anxious, or small, that's a sign your environment is working against you, not for you. And it's your job to change it, not because those people or things are inherently bad, but because you deserve a space that supports the life you're trying to create. And yes, I know this is hard. We're creatures of habit. We cling to familiar patterns, even when they're toxic, because our brains crave safety over growth. But here's the reality, nothing changes until you do. If you want a new life, you have to stop surrounding yourself with the same energy that created the old one. Start small. Curate your digital feed so you're seeing more content that inspires you and less that triggers you. Spend less time with people who gossip and more time with people who challenge you to grow. Declutter your space so your mind can breathe. These little shifts add up, and over time, they completely rewire your nervous system. Here's what happens when you do this. Clarity returns, energy returns, your focus sharpens. You stop wasting mental bandwidth on drama and negativity, and you start redirecting it toward building the life you want. You start making decisions from a place of power instead of pressure. You stop reacting and start creating. Because here's the thing nobody tells you, your environment is either a mirror of your old story or a launch pad for your new one. If you keep surrounding yourself with the same chaos, you're going to keep repeating the same chapters. But when you detox your space, your relationships, and your inputs, you create room for new possibilities. You create a foundation where your soul can actually rest, reset, and rise. And once you experience that shift, everything changes. The same situations don't trigger you the way they used to. The same people don't hold the same power over you. Why? Because you've stopped letting your environment control your energy and you've started controlling it instead. That's how you take your power back. That's how you create space for growth, healing, and peace. Here's what I want you to hear. Your soul doesn't need another quick fix, another temporary distraction, or another hack to feel better. What it really needs is alignment, and alignment isn't about perfection. It's about finally getting your choices, your values, and your actions to match the life you say you want. If you keep saying you want peace, but keep entertaining chaos, you're never going to feel whole. If you keep talking about growth, but surround yourself with the same old patterns, nothing is going to shift. You don't need a new plan. You need to start living in a way that honors the person you're becoming, not the person you've been. Here's the thing. Most of us are exhausted, not because we're doing too much, but because we're doing too much of the wrong things. We spend hours worrying about people who don't care about us. We chase validation from people who don't even notice us. We pour our energy into fixing things that were never our responsibility in the first place. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, drained, and disconnected. It's not you, it's the choices you're making every single day without realizing it. The truth is, your soul is begging you to stop fighting battles that don't belong to you and start focusing on the ones that actually matter. Alignment starts with awareness. You have to get radically honest with yourself about what isn't working, not from a place of shame or judgment, but from a place of self-compassion. Ask yourself, does this job, this relationship, this habit reflect the life I want to create? And if the answer is no, you have to be willing to do something about it. You cannot keep ignoring the signs and expect things to magically change. You can't keep numbing yourself with distractions and call it healing. At some point, you have to stop running from yourself and face the truth. Your life only changes when you decide to live differently. But here's the part nobody talks about. Real alignment often requires letting go of people who drain you, even if you love them, letting go of old dreams that no longer fit who you're becoming, letting go of habits that keep you small and safe when your soul is craving expansion. And yes, letting go hurts. It's uncomfortable, it's lonely at first, but that discomfort is proof you're growing. You're making space for something new. And if you don't make that space, nothing else can enter. The other piece of alignment is learning to listen to your intuition, to your body, to the signals you've been ignoring. Your body knows when something isn't right. That tightness in your chest, the constant anxiety, the exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, it's not random. It's feedback. It's your system telling you that the way you're living is out of sync with who you really are. But here's the kicker. The longer you ignore those signals, the louder they get.